Hello, my name is Yelise Kodorobe, and today is December 16th, 2018. This is a video exercise for week 7, better known as the sheep brain dissection, and that's the introduction, name and date. We'll move on to it. All right, so here we have a foam pad with our sheep brain. We're going to look at it from the top and just go through all the required landmarks, for lack of a better word, parts. At the very bottom, we have the brain stem, followed by the cerebellum and the various lobes. If we actually separate the cerebellum from the brain, we can see the midbrain in there. And for the lobes, we have the occipital lobes in the back. We have the temporal lobes at the sides. If I can just, right there. Parietal lobes, which make up the bulk of the brain, and the frontal lobes at the very front. Now, you'll notice various other landmarks on the brain, namely a bunch of grooves and ridges. That would be the singular terminology for these things are the gyrus and the sulcus, and that would be your ridges and your grooves. They're a little bit less defined in sheep's brain when compared to human brains. And gyri and sulci is the plural terms for these things. But you can see them all over the brain. These small little ridges and grooves. This line that separates both the left and the right hemisphere is called the longitudinal fissure. At this point, we can just kind of flip this baby around and just have a quick look. From the bottom, let's just kind of arrange these deflated olfactory bulbs. One thing that you will notice immediately is this thin white film. This white film is called the meninges, and it's actually quite on there. I don't even know if I can. Can I pop that off? Yay, you can. All right. Here, one second. I'm just going to go ahead and separate that, just so we can have a better look underneath. Yeah, what we're doing here. Brilliant. All right. Okie dokes. That's really stiff. Oh man, it's very hard. I think that's about as much as we're going to be able to remove, really. And we'll just go through the same kind of, step-by-step labeling, for lack of a better word. We can still see some of the lobes, like the temporal lobes at the sides, the frontal lobes at the very top, the brain stem at the very bottom, but we also have various little bumps. Certain parts of this area have different names. Unfortunately, unlike in textbooks, there's no like clear-cut lines of where the margins are. So I'm just kind of gonna estimate by little landmarks like bumps and lumps and other things around it. We can also see the cerebellum from the other side, or the bottom portion of the cerebellum. And so we've got the brainstem. We've also got the medulla. This little bump is the medulla. Above that is the part of the brain called the pons. And if we go further up, at the very, very top, we've got these two small little guys called the olfactory bulbs, responsible for receiving and transmitting to the brain information about smells and stuff like that. We've also got this small little X-shaped landmark here, and that's better known as the optic chiasma. Normally there would be two optic nerves going from the top of this X, and below them would be the optic tracts. Of course, the midbrain is in this. We can't really. Can I? Actually, the midbrain's better. Like I said, better view from separating the cerebellum. And the cerebellum we can still see from this side. The meninges we already touched on. What else? The parietal lobes. I think that's mostly it. Now the video also, the instructions also says, you should take a quick look inside. So I'm going to bisect the brain right down the middle. Sharp scalpel. Just got to be really careful with these cuts. Not quite perfectly down the middle, but the stem was kind of off center in the first place, so that about does it, I think. Can I? That little area by the mammillary bodies is very, very tough. Really tough. You know what? I might just resort to using the scissors. Because, is that bone? Okay, all right, perfect. Last but not least, I'm going to run through a quick sort of portion here of everything we have from the side view, of basically a mid-sagittal view of the brain, of the sheep's brain. At the top, we've got our cerebral hemispheres. We've got, you can also see the gyri and the sulci here from this portion as well. We've also got the cerebellum in the back. We've got your brain stem. You'll notice that the positioning of the brain stem is to the back, since sheep walk on 4 legs and not on 2. Otherwise, their brain stems would be at the bottom, underneath their heads. What else? We've got the brain stem, the medulla oblongata. We've got the pons. We've got the midbrain region. We've got the frontal lobes, the parietal lobes. We can't really see the temporal lobes from this angle, but that's completely okay. What else? The thalamus. The thalamus and the hypothalamus are basically in your well, they're next to your midbrain. You can't really tell apart the glands and stuff. This might actually be a gland. Not the pituitary, but the pineal gland. The pituitary is going to be a little bit towards behind the frontal lobes, more or less. This might actually be it. It's really hard to say. Not everything's colored and labeled like in the textbooks. Beyond that, that should, I believe, be it. This concludes my video.